I'm not gonna lie, I am feeling oddly inspired, and you better hold on to your pants because Hoopa will steal them away. Because this thing just it just sees something and says mine now, and that's basically what its ability Magician does. Basically, here it will steal the item of the Pokemon it hits with a move if it doesn't have an item. And honestly, there's a lot of ways you could probably set this up that Hoopa could disrupt your opponents. And yeah, the main reason why I'm making this video is because I'm looking at Hoopa-Unbound to ladder with. And yeah, Hoopa-Unbound, look at those stats. 80 HP, 160 attack, 60 defense, 170 special attack, 130 special defense, and 80 speed. Hoopa-Unbound is not playing around. This thing is just ready to take names and items. So yeah, this thing is a little bit terrifying. Not gonna lie, and I might already have a team built. Yeah, this is probably gonna come out right before that, or right after. I don't know. I haven't filmed the battle with the team yet, but we might be bringing Hoopa sooner rather than later. Hoopa-Unbound here is a dark psychic type Pokemon, which is nice. It shares the same typing as our best friend Malamar, and unlike its little form, it's not Chen Pao bait because this thing is Psychic Ghost, and honestly, Hoopa-Unbound special attack goes up 20 points, and its attack goes up an extra 50 points. And yeah, one thing that's really scary about both of these Pokemon is they just see Protect and they say no. Because Hoopa Confined has the signature move Hyperspace Hole, which is a base 80 psychic attack. It bypasses accuracy, and it breaks the target's protection per turn. So, you know, you could potentially do some really scary things with that. Or, you know, we get into Hoopa-Unbound and we get into its upgraded version, Hyperspace Fury. And yeah, it does lower our defense one stage, which is a little bit scary. But I mean, it also goes up in power, and it does change to a physical attack from a special attack. So I think that might be the only thing that kind of helps the little one from is Hoopa doesn't have to worry about Intimidate when it's confined, but when it's unbound, you do kind of have to worry about Intimidate a little bit because, you know, unless you're holding a Clear Amulet. Yeah, but I mean, you could just say, I don't need to rely on Magician and just hold that Clear Amulet and problem solved. But yeah, one thing that I will say that is a little bit concerning about Hoopa, though, is it doesn't really have any priority moves. I don't think it has any priority, actually. And outside of Psychic Terrain, this thing might be priority bait since most priority moves are physical, and it has 60 defense. So, I mean, like, Chen Pao Sucker Punch could be scary even though it's neutral. But Sword of Ruin and plus Hyperspace Fury defense drafts, that could be a little bit scary, but I think you could make a case for playing Hoopa-Unbound on a Psychic Terrain team, and I think it could get really scary really quickly. So let's take a look at what it has for moves as well as some item choices because I think you could have a lot of fun with Magician. So starting off with our moves here, we're going to look at the physical side because, you know, the fact that Hoopa goes out of its way to raise that base 110 physical attack up to 160 means this thing wants to punch. This thing wants to be Demonic Star Platinum. So what does it get? Well, it gets, well, exactly what I just kind of said about punching moves. We got Brick Break to break screens. We got Drain Punch to just hit things and restore some HP. And if this thing didn't have such a low physical defense, I would definitely say Drain Punch could be really spicy on this thing with some coaching support, but I don't think it really works out to be the best. Now, if there was maybe an item like that was like a direct counterpart to the Assault Vest for physical defense, maybe we could be cooking with that, but alas, Drain Punch is probably not going to be doing much in terms of sustainability. Now, if you just want it for the sake of having that fighting type coverage, you could definitely use that, absolutely. Now, we have Facade here, so in case we get statused, if we get burned, we can double our physical base power from 70 to 140, but Hoopa's not a Gutsmon, so just keep that in mind. Facade might not be the best option for it. We have Fire Punch for some coverage, Focus Punch is an interesting option here. I mean, if you get hidden behind a substitute, yeah, Sub Punch could work. Yeah, maybe. But no, I don't recommend Focus Punch ever. So, yeah. Foul Play, on the other hand, Foul Play could be fun for some nice dark type stab coverage, but because it does have that Hyperspace Fury, I think Foul Play is a little bit redundant here unless you're playing specifically towards a special attacking set. You just want to have some physical damage just in case. We have Ice Punch for some coverage. We have Knockoff, which is a great utility move. And unlike Foul Play, I would actually recommend potentially doubling up on Hyperspace Fury and Knockoff, and then that way you can remove items from your opponent, especially if you've already stolen something from one mon, and then you just want to make sure the rest of your opponent's teammates don't have anything. You could go for Knockoff and just slap things away. Like maybe you manage to steal like, I don't know, maybe you steal like an Assault Vest off something and boost up your special defense, and then your opponent has Calyrex Ice on the field. Well, then you could just turn around, knock off a Clear Amulet from it, and just go from there. Maybe you stole a Life Orb, but now you have that boosted damage. So, yeah, I think you could potentially do something like that. And one thing I want to make a note of too is with that super high base 130 special defense, if you stole an Assault Vest, this thing would not only be extraordinarily tanky, but it would also eat Shadow Rider for lunch. And I feel like based off the look of Hoopa's absolute demonic form, it wants to eat Calyrex Shadow Rider for lunch. So if Shadow Rider struggles against you, I mean, there's worse things in life, that's for sure. And if you struggle against Shadow Rider, maybe Hoopa-Unbound is your answer. Getting back to it, we have Lash Out. So Lash Out is a dark type move that will double in power if you had a stat lowered this turn. So if your opponent switches in Incineroar, that could be nice. You could Lash Out and double in base power. And with that 160 base attack, like even taking a attack drop from an Intimidate might not be the worst case scenario either to keep in mind. We have Phantom Force, which is a semi-protecting move for Hoopa right here. And basically on turn 1, you will disappear. And on turn 2, unless your opponent has Terra Normal or a normal type Pokemon on the field or a normal type Pokemon to switch into, you'll still hit through them even if they go for a protective move, because Phantom Force will break Protect, which honestly, I think that's wild. The fact that both forms of Hoopa have a signature move that can break protection, and then on top of that they have Phantom Force, so they can do that again. Like, Hoopa's just gonna break protects left, right, and center, and honestly, that could be fun. I really like the idea for that. We have Throat Chop for some more dark type coverage. We have Thunder Punch to hit flying types and water types, so you do have a little bit of elemental coverage with the elemental punches in Fire, Ice, and Thunder Punch. And then we have Zen Headbutt for some physical psychic type stab, so you do have that. And then as far as the usually useless moves as deemed so by Malamar Showdown, we have Astonish, which, yes, they are right, that is useless. Fling could be funny if you're looking to go for the meme, but I don't think you want to go for the meme with Fling. You have Giga Impact to just absolutely blast something on the normal side of things, but you'll lose out on a turn, so probably not the best. Rock Tomb could be okay for a little bit of speed control. Skitter Smack might be manageable because, you're lowering your target's special attack one stage, but I mean, Skitter Smack, it probably needs to go up in base power for it to be considered a little bit more reliable, or bare minimum, go up to 95 accuracy. In a perfect world, I would see Skitter Smack as a base 7500 accuracy move. But yeah, and then we have Takedown and Thief, which Takedown is no, that's almost Fire Blast accuracy. I'm fairly certain that is Fire Blast accuracy for 90 base power. And Thief, you have Magician. You don't need two useless things working at once, whether it's Thief or Magician. But I mean, really, because Magician's the ability, you're already at a net positive on that compared to Thief. So yeah, that's basically Hoopa's physical moves right there. Let's back out of that and go into its special attacking moves. So right here we have Dark Pulse. So That's going to be really nice to come off of that base 170 special attack. We have Energy Ball, Expanding Force, and Energy Ball is great because you can hit a lot of bulky water types for some massive, super effective damage. You can hit ground types like Groudon for good damage. Yeah, I think that's overall a pretty good thing. And as far as Hoopa's coverage goes, like, I think really the special attacking moves are really nice. Like, you could justify running a full special attacking or physical set, but I think you have a little bit better coverage on the special attacking set. Now, as I did mention, we do have Expanding Force as well. This thing does not like priority, especially with that low defense, so Psychic Terrain is going to be your friend, and so you might as well play around with Expanding Force. And I think Hoopa can do some massive damage to things with Expanding Force. Like, I think Expanding Force is definitely viable to look into. You have Focus Blast, which if you have some gravity support, yeah, you could justify that 70 accuracy. Otherwise, no. Yeah, like it's physical fighting moves. I feel like provide a little bit more reliability in terms of the lower base power, but the accuracy is much more reliable there. You have Future Sight, which honestly that could be fun. For the unexpected factor for 2 turns later, but I don't really see Future Sight really working the greatest in double battles. Maybe on the singles ladder that could be spicy. Moving on from Future Sight, we have a brief little window of some grass type coverage in Grass Knot before we get into a couple of different psychic attacks. And Grass Knot could be good because it can be used to punish heavier Pokemon here since it scales based off the target's weight. So Pokemon like, say, Groudon and Kyogre in a restricted / mythical format, they would not appreciate taking Grass Knot damage, and because Hoopa's special attack is so high, I could see that doing a respectable chunk. I mean, that might actually one-shot a non-terrestrialized Groudon, to be completely honest. And then getting into some more psychic options here, we have Psychic, Psychic Noise, and Psyshock. So Psychic, being the highest out of those 3 in base power, has a 10% chance to lower the target's special defense one stage. And it's pretty reliable, and plus it naturally benefits from Stab. Psychic Noise, having base 75 power, is not too bad, since for 2 turns, it prevents the target from healing. And if you're going up against, say, something like, say, a move like, or something with a move like, say, Drain Punch, if you hit them with a Psychic Noise actually stops that effect. Like, I ran into an Iron Hands once with a Psychic Noise for Igraf, and hit him with a Psychic Noise, and while I thought Drain Punch would still do the damage and just not heal, it just didn't work at all. So, food for thought right there. Like, if you run into an Iron Hands and you hit him with a Psychic Noise, that could be fun, especially if Iron Hands gives you a little bit of trouble. So, like, imagine you get the Psychic Terrain up, you go for Psychic Noise, and then just Iron Hands tries to Drain Punch you and take advantage of the fact that your defense is paper thin, and then it just doesn't get the Drain Punch. Yeah, that could be nice, and just an interesting little bit of trivia for you. Then we have Psyshock here with a base 80 power right here that calculates its damage based off the physical defense of the target and not the special defense. So maybe if you're going up against a specially defensive wall that doesn't really have the best physical defense, bada bing, bada boom, or, even just an Assault Vest, you can just hit them for more damage and just punish them that way. We have Shadow Ball for some Ghost type coverage, and then we have Terra Blast to take advantage of whatever your Terra type is and go for some extra coverage if you need it. And speaking of Terras, I think Terra Dark Hoopa-Unbound might be worth looking into, since this still protects you from Prankster Thunderwave while giving you some good special Dark type stab potentially. It's right around a comparable amount to Dark Pulse. It'd be 10 points less, but you could also have that normal type coverage when you're not terrestrialized, so you have a little bit of extra coverage that way. And then you have Thunderbolt, which is nice and reliable as well, and great electric type damage, and plus Miraidon is still going to be running around, so you can take advantage of electric terrain to boost up Thunderbolt as well. So yeah, you definitely have that as a potential option. And then as far as the remainder moves, we have Confusion, which, yeah, not great. Hyper Beam, not great. Psybeam it's way too weak to justify, and same with Swift. So yeah, normally I would say you can find some hidden gems in this section here when you're looking at different Pokemon for double battles. Like you might find a hidden gem, like a support move, but in this case, I completely agree with Showdown here. These moves all are definite stinkers, so that's for sure. Now, as far as some status moves go for Hoopa-Unbound, let's take a quick look right there. We have Calm Mind, so, that's extremely scary because, base 170, base 130. +1 is a 50% boost right there. You're already at 190 with no investment into a neutral nature special attack stat at 150 for a special defense. That's terrifying. Yeah, that is absolutely terrifying right there for Calm Mind. You have Destiny Bond, so that could be spicy. And the reason why being Destiny Bond, if you have a sash, like, and you maybe say take a big hit, you go for the Destiny Bond. Well, you have until Hoopa moves next for Destiny Bond to still kick in. So if they hit you a second time, Hoopa's taking something down with it. And Hoopa's not exactly the fastest Pokemon at base 80 speed. So yeah, yeah. And even if you're playing the little confined Hoopa, like Hoopa confined is a little bit slower at base 70 speed compared to Hoopa-Unbound. So like you could maybe have some fun with a Focus Sash and Destiny Bond as a last ditch effort. You have Nasty Plot to raise your special attack 2 stages in one go. So maybe you just want to go straight offensive and just go for that Nasty Plot. That could be a thing. Like you could go for some massive damage. You do have substitute, so you could just provide a substitute for Hoopa, and then that way too, you could just not have to worry about taking some damage. And maybe if you're running a Citrus Berry and you get enough substitutes off and you get some HP back, like then you can steal another item, or maybe even you aren't running a Citrus Berry. Maybe you're running like, say, I don't know, maybe a Terrain Seed, and you already have that active, and then you steal a Citrus Berry. Like that might be clutch for a substitute set. But I mean, there's a lot of hypotheticals going on there, which I don't really think you should always factor into for your games if you're going to be playing Hoopa-Unbound. But I mean, there's a lot. Yeah, there's definitely a lot right there, that's for sure. You have Taunt, which, that could be good for shutting down slower Pokemon going for Trick Room, or even just slower Pokemon in general going for a setup move. So you do have that. You have Thunder Wave, which pretty decent. So, you do have that paralysis. You have Trick, which I think Trick could be really funny on this this Pokemon, because if you steal an item you don't like, you could just trick it onto something else, like something different from what you stole it from. Like, imagine, say, I don't know, maybe your opponent had a Choice Scarf and you stole the Choice Scarf, and then they have Grimmsnarl on the field. You could then trick the Choice Scarf onto the Grimmsnarl and just steal their Light Clay, and then give the Light Clay to something else. Maybe you have, like, female Indeedee with that redirection support, and then that way, too, like, you could just start stealing items and then just tricking them onto the wrong Pokemon to really disrupt your opponent. Like, I think that could be a thing you could do. Like, slight tangent, I did that in Louisville in round 2. Like, I was playing against Grimmsnarl, Porygon 2, Salazzle, and Staraptor again with my Annihilate male Indeedee, which knew Trick, and Incineroar. I don't remember my 4th Pokemon. I think it might have been Greninja. And basically, I got the Psychic Terrain up. I tricked my own Choice Scarf onto the Grimmsnarl, stole its Light Clay, and then I was able to make a call correctly where I was able to protect my partner Pokemon, and then Indeedee just stole the Choice Scarf off of my opponent's Staraptor. So I took back a Choice Scarf and gave their Staraptor a Light Clay. So the Staraptor's like, what am I supposed to do with this? And Indeedee's like, absolutely sweet nothing, and then proceeded to hit it with an Expanding Force the next turn. So like, you could have some fun with Trick with Hoopa. I really feel like it is possible, especially if you do have some Tailwind support, or maybe even some redirection support through Follow Me. So like, yeah, you could have that. And then it does get Trick Room, which I don't really think Hoopa... It's weird because it's base 80, so it's like kind of in between speed tiers. Like, it's sort of slow, but it's not slow enough where it would be an absolute menace inside Trick Room. Like, there would be a lot faster things, like, say, Ursaluna, Amoonguss, Torkoal. So, like, maybe if you had an Iron Ball, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it might play better with Tailwind, to be completely honest. But yeah, like, like, because when you factor in, like, as far as your speed stat goes, like with perfect IVs, you're going to be at 100 speed naturally with a non-beneficial nature. So with a little bit of investment, you'd hit 107. Like Tailwind would put you faster than a Dragapult at that point, whereas you don't really have a means of lowering your own speed. So yeah, I think that's probably for the best to maybe run Tailwind support next to this thing versus Trick Room. And then as far as some other moves go, we have Ally Switch. So, that might be okay in a double battle. Like, I don't really like Ally Switch, but you might be able to get Hoopa away from a nasty hit, or vice versa. You might get Hoopa's partner away from a nasty hit that Hoopa might be okay with. Like, maybe your opponent's going for like a psychic type attack into your fighting type Corridon. So like you go for an ally switch, your dark typing just gives you natural immunity to it. So you maybe have a means there. You have gravity to lower the evasion of everything on the field while raising up the accuracy of some less than reliable moves that way. So like you might be able to do that. And then you do a skill swap. So maybe if you just don't like Magician, you can just steal something else ability wise. So like you do maybe have that working in your favor as far as Hoopa goes. But I think that's really the only kind of notable move left. Oh, actually, guard split might be kind of spicy because you can just average out your defense and special defense with the target. So whereas your defense is so bad, if your opponent has something physically bulky, like you might be able to just average out your defenses right there. And now Hoopa might be able to live a physical hit. Maybe. That's definitely a big stretch. But I mean, hey, it might work. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of like what Hoopa has as far as its moves go. Now, before I talk about some potential spread ideas and some teammates and items, we're just going to take a quick moment here to pivot into something slightly different, and that would be today's partner. This feels like a good time for a tangent. Pokemon is a complex game with plenty of moving parts, thus making the game ever-changing and far more complex than you might realize. It doesn't matter whether you're simply just talking about team building or if you're actually taking part in battle. There are several moving parts that you need to take into account for, and that can be your EV spreads, your type weaknesses, your item choice, what your opponent's shirt might say. Okay, maybe not that one, but case in point, there are plenty of moving parts that you do need to take into consideration while playing the game, and thus it can be a bit complicated at times. I mean, hey, that's what makes the game so fun in the first place. But you know what doesn't have to be overly complicated and complex? Protecting your online security. And that's where today's partner, NordVPN, comes into play. By connecting to their servers, Nord encrypts your ISP, thus making your digital footprint a lot harder to trace, which is just wonderful. And on top of that, they have a built-in ad blocker, so you don't have to worry when you're surfing the web on your phone and clicking into those pesky pop-up ads with your chunky fingers. I mean, hey, phone screens are not that big to begin with, and I don't need to be seeing what my local car dealership has on sale this week. I want to see the good stuff. I want to see the Pokemon. I don't want to see what my car dealership's trying to sell me. But getting back on track, Nord also protects up to 10 different devices at once, which is wonderful because you don't have to worry about being locked into just one singular device with your subscription plan. You can use your laptop, you can use your phone, you can use a tablet. I'm ready to go to different devices to think of. I don't really know people with 10 different devices. I don't live that bougie life. But if you got an extra phone, baby, I don't know. Listen, guys. I microwave my nachos. I am far from bougie. Yeah, we just got painfully real here. But you know what is real and also assuring? Nord's Threat Protection Pro. This is wonderful because it flags websites hosting malware and stops you from entering them, which, I mean, Talk about convenient, right? You don't have to worry about your data getting stolen by accidentally clicking into a website that you might think is safe. Once, when I was doing some research for a discussion video, I actually landed on one such website, and Nord was there to stop me and said, hey, some things seem a little out of place. You might not want to use this one here, buddy. And so I backed out of it and didn't have to worry about my data getting stolen, which is just wonderful. And if that sounds enticing to you, I have good news. I have a discount link for a 2-year plan. Be sure to use my link, nordvpn.com/shucko, for a wonderful 70+% on a 2-year plan. How great does that sound? I think it sounds pretty darn good myself, but I might be a little bit biased on the matter. So use my link, nordvpn.com/shucko, to get yourself a wonderful discount on a 2-year plan. Still not convinced? Well, Nord also has their dark web monitor, which also scours the internet looking for those hideout places for those in real life Team Rocket members looking to profit off of your potentially stolen data. And if Nord does find your data out there on the dark web, it does alert you so you can take appropriate action. Use my link, nordvpn.com/shucko, to not only support my channel, but to strengthen your online security. And if you don't like it, well, Nord is all about that customer satisfaction. So within 30 days of purchase, if you aren't happy, Nord does have a 30-day back money guarantee. So honestly, where's the harm in trying it? It's a win-win for both of us. Thank you to Nord for partnering with me for this video. And thank you for checking out my link, nordvpn.com/shucko. Now, back to the video. Okay, so thank you, me, for bringing us that wonderful NordVPN segment here. Now, moving on and getting back to Hoopa. As far as some sets go, I think if you wanted to go for a physical set, Choice Band is definitely a strong option, especially if you don't really want to rely too much on Magician. And what you could do here with the EVs is you could max out that sweet base 160 attack and that speed, throw on a Jolly Nature so you hit 145 speed, and then that way you hit a maximum speed of 290 in Tailwind. And if you're worried about Fake Out, you could opt for Terra Ghost, especially if you're not terribly worried about Calyrex Shadow Rider. And if you are worried about Calyrex Shadow Rider, you could always just stay in your base typing of Dark and Psychic here, since you'll naturally be immune to Psychic type attacks while being resistant to Astral Barrage. You will be weak against Draining Kiss, but I mean, with that base 130 special defense with some Tailwind working in your favor, you should be able to outspeed it anyways and threaten it back with a Phantom Force, especially if that Shadow Rider does not have Terra Dark or Terra Normal in its kit. Now, if it has Terra Fairy, it might be okay to take the Phantom Force, but the Choice Band comes in clutch there, giving you that 50% boost. With the 160 base attack right there, you do hit 212, so you're effectively getting an extra 50 points right there. You're getting an extra 106 right there, so you are hitting like an absolute physical menace with that Choice Band. Now, if you take Intimidate, well, you're still going to be hitting at 212. That's a lot. Yeah, like that is a lot to be hitting. And plus, you do have Hyperspace Fury, so you don't even have to really worry about your opponent going for Protect, because Hyperspace Fury will break their protection. So that will create an opening for Hoopa's partner. So maybe if you're resigned to the fact that Hoopa's probably going down, but Hoopa's fast enough to outspeed the opponent, you might be able to get around that Protect that your opponent might have needed and do some massive damage, and then allow Hoopa's partner to come in and get the finishing blow right there. So that might not be too terrible. Now, I have Hyperspace Fury and Phantom Force right here, but what I also have is Brick Break, and the idea here is just to get around screens. Being able to just destroy screens and get around, like say Reflect, Light Screen, and Auroraville, that could be relatively nice. Light Screen's not going to be too much of a problem for physical Hoopa, but it could be a problem for Hoopa's partner, so it's still nice to be able to have that option to destroy Light Screen. And plus, I mean, Grimstar is a thing, and with Hoopa's natural dark typing built into its stab options right there, like you don't have to worry about Prankster Thunderwave. So if that Grimstorm goes for either a reflect or a light screen, you could just destroy that with the Brick Break. But if you don't want to run Brick Break, you could run Drain Punch. And then that way too, as I said, you do have some reliable damage. You're not really sustaining Hoopa very long because paper fin defenses on the physical side. But I mean, you do have that as one option. If you do want to go for a stab option for the psychic typing here, you could run your Zen Headbutt right there. And then that way too, you could potentially do some decent damage to a Korodon or any other fighting type Pokemon around. But I mean, you do have to be a little bit weary of 90 accuracy. And also the fact that this particular type combination of Dark, Ghost, and Psychic all being very wallable by Incineroar. So having that fighting coverage instead could be a little bit on the nicer side. Now, you could rely on Hoopa's partners to get around Incineroar, or maybe Hoopa's partners might force Incineroar into a Terra type. And then that way too, like you kind of get around it that way, but you probably should have a backup plan for Incineroar if you're going to run Hoopa's 2 stabs plus ghost coverage. So, like, that is probably a very important note to make right there. Incineroar will wall it. And really, any dark type will wall it, now that I'm thinking about it. So, yeah, Incineroar is the most prominent one, but there are other dark types out there. So, you might want to have some fighting coverage just to get around dark type Pokemon in general. But you could also have, like, say, your elemental punches, whether it be fire, thunder, or ice punch, just for some extra options. Like having ice punch to hit grass types and flying types could be relatively handy, especially being able to hit some ground type Pokemon as well. Like, or more importantly, dragons. Lots of dragons. But that could be relatively nice. You could have the Fire Punch to hit Steel-type Pokemon with it, and you might even pick up a burn with Fire Punch. So, like, that's not too bad for dealing with some physical Pokemon. You probably shouldn't rely specifically on getting that Fire Punch burn, but I mean, the small potential is always there. So, like, you do have that to work in your favor. You also have Gunk Shot, which I think I forgot to mention on the physical side. So like you can punish fairy type Pokemon, which would threaten Hoopa with Gunk Shot. So like, yeah, Gunk Shot's probably a good option to keep in mind too. So you do have that for a physical set. And then you could also go for Terra Blast and just rely on your Terra. Now, if you're doing this particular set with Phantom Force and Hyperspace Fury, maybe not Terra Ghost. Maybe a different Terra so you can have some different Terra coverage, but I mean, you could have that. And the fourth and final move that I do have on this particular spread is Trick, and then that way you could give your choice band to something stupid like, say, an Amoonguss. And then that way, too, the Amoonguss just looks at it like, what do I do with this? So, like, you could have that Trick right there, and then maybe you get leftovers, or maybe you get, like, a item that's more consumable. Like maybe you steal a grassy seed from something before a Rillaboom came in, and then you could just consume that and then steal another item. Like maybe you could do something like that as far as a physical Hoopa goes. Now you could, instead of running Trick, you could just drop the choice band, go for a Life Orb, and then just have Protect right here. And then now you do have that nice reliable Protect to protect you from Fake Out if you can't Terra, or if you don't want to burn your Terra Ghost right away. So that's what I was thinking about physical Hoopa. Now for purely special attacking Hoopa, you can do two different things. You can have Expanding Force Psy Spam with Psychic Terrain and some other coverage options, like say maybe Dark Pulse and Thunderbolt, or you could opt for a Calm Mind option right there. Calm Mind would definitely go a long way into base 170 special attack and 130 special defense, and honestly, you might even be able to justify an Assault Vest. Yeah, you might be able to justify an Assault Vest, and then that just gives you a natural +1 into your special defense, but I think Psychic Seed might be the better way to go because it's a consumable item. You can get your Psychic Terrain up, you get that +1 to your special defense, and now you can steal an item with Magician. So, like, yeah, Psychic Seed might be a little bit better than the Assault Vest, but back to what I was saying, you could have, like, say, Indeedee on the field, regardless of whether it's male or female. You can have Psychic Terrain set up, and then you could have Hoopa opt for Expanding Force. You could potentially use Meowstic as a partner since it gets Prankster Psychic Terrain, and then that way, too, your opponents might think that they can go for a Sucker Punch into your Hoopa, and then bam, Psychic Terrain just goes up, and now Hoopa is safe from that priority attack coming in. Or, you just switch in, maybe, say, Farigiraf or Serena, whereas their abilities naturally block priority. So you could do something like that. But I think Expanding Force is definitely a huge way to go with Hoopa-Unbound. I think it's just prominent right there. Now, if you're worried about Wide Guard, you know what? That's a fair point. Yeah, like, Wide Guard you do have to be a little bit careful with, but I mean, that was kind of why I had Dark Pulse and Thunderbolt there, just to have some extra coverage options that are single target. So that is something that is good to keep in mind too, is Wide Guard. Wide Guard could be really bad in the face of a Zambazenta or a Lunala. But as far as your items go, you could have a Focus Sash, and the Focus Sash could keep you around from taking a big hit, and then Hoopa can go for a second big hit of its own. Or you could even have Calm Mind, and then that way too, you have a little bit of insurance with the Focus Sash. You get the Calm Mind up, and now you just do extra damage on top of that. And who knows, maybe you redirect it away safely with Hoopa, or rather Hoopa's partner. Hoopa gets set up, and now Hoopa can go for massive damage while still having its Focus Sash intact. And if some slower things come into the battle, Hoopa can potentially hit them, have its Focus Sash get procced, steal an item, and then rinse and repeat and just go from there. So I think that could be a very nice thing to keep in mind with Hoopa-Unbound. Like, you got Dark Pulse, which can make something flinch. Also, I'm just realizing too, Dark Pulse is 80 accuracy. I thought it was 90 earlier. So yeah, back to what I said about Terra Blast. Yeah, you're actually on par with Dark Pulse. So enjoy. I think I was mixing it up with Earth Power, not gonna lie. But yeah, you have that 80 base power on Dark Pulse, and Terra Blast is also 80. So like, really, you could drop Dark Pulse here, and then you could have Terra Blast, and then if you really want to use Terra Dark, I mean, you could do that. But I'm just kind of spitballing here, to be completely honest with you guys. Like, this is just a random thought that I just had right there. Like, you might be able to get away with Terra Blast in Terra Dark, but I mean, Terra Dark Pulse is probably still the way to go, since you have that 20% flinch odds. So like, yeah, that might be for the best. But honestly, either way, both of them could be scary coming off of Hoopa. And I mean, if you're not Terra, you'd have that normal type coverage there too. So yeah, food for thought. And then what else you could potentially do with Hoopa is, if you look at it, 160 attack, 170 special attack. The physical attack capped out at 212. The special attack caps out at 222 on a neutral nature. Do you see where we're going with this? Mixed Hoopa. You could get away with this. I genuinely think you could get away with this for Hoopa-Unbound. Like, 156 EVs into a neutral special attack brings you up to 210, which is respectable. 100 EVs into the attack stat brings you up to 193, still respectable. And a hasty nature still allows you to have that beneficial speed nature while not hampering either one of your attack or special attack, and also notably your special defense. Now, if you had exactly 60 in both defenses, you could get away with naive, but because you have that 130, don't run the naive nature, run the hasty nature. Or alternatively too, if you don't really care about having that 145 speed, you could opt for either a lonely nature, or you could opt for a mild nature to boost up either your special attack or your attack while having your speed at 132. Like, 145 speed is very fast, especially with Tailwind support, but some things to keep note of: it does not outspeed Scarf Calyrex, not that you really see that, but it also doesn't outspeed Booster Energy, Flutter, or Iron Bundle. But I mean, hey, if you're okay with that and you just want to have the damage, you could do that 132 speed and just hit all the harder on your special attack or physical attack stats. Like, you go up to 231 on the special attack with the 156 investment, and then with the 100, you go up to 212. That's literally where a beneficial attack is capping out, or not a beneficial attack, a neutral attack is capping out. So really, imagine if we just had, say, maybe 156 instead of the special attack here. You hit 220. That's huge. That's some huge numbers right there. Now, as far as your Terra option goes, I think you can kind of like size it up between Terra Dark, Terra Ghost, maybe Terra Poison if you're worried about fairy type Pokemon. But I think maybe Terra Dark might be nice, and then that way you don't have to worry about opposing Sucker Punch outside of Psychic terrain. And what I had here for the mixed move set was Hyperspace Fury, Expanding Force, and Phantom Force. And this way you have 2 out of 3 of your moves being able to, or 2 out of 3 of your damaging moves, sorry, being able to break protect. You have Expanding Force for that spread option, and then you can have Trick right here, and you have a Psychic Seed. So really, if you steal something you don't like, you can just trick it away. Yeah, you could just do that. You can have a Psychic Terrain partner right there. You get a +1 to your special defense. At that +1 right there, that's an extra 75 points. So you're hitting 225 special defense. You're looking scary. You are looking scary on the specially defensive side. Now, if something comes in and hits you with a Psyshock when you're terrestrialized away from the dark typing, that could be a little sad. But you're looking pretty darn good, not going to lie. I do like that. I really do like how that works out for Hoopa. Now, I have been talking a lot about the Psychic Seed. You could probably justify running an Electric Seed or a Grassy Seed just so that Hoopa doesn't put itself down to -1 the first time it uses Hyperspace Fury. So you could potentially do that. I mean, you do tend to see the Grassy Seed on Unburdened Sneasler in Regulation H. So, I mean, I don't see why not. For Hoopa, like, you could do something like that. I mean, technically you don't have the Unburdened speed boost, but I mean, Magician can just steal some items away too, so maybe you steal something good like a Life Orb, or maybe even just steal away leftovers from something bulky and annoying, so like, you do have that. So yeah, I think Hoopa-Unbound can do a lot of damage. Now, as far as some Pokemon goes, I think you could go for Female Indeedee with your Psychic Terrain. I think as far as another restricted legendary Pokemon goes, I think you could maybe get away with, say, Koridon. And honestly, this is kind of where I was kind of building with my own team here, with having Koridon for some good physical fighting and Dragon-type coverage, as well as strong hitting fire. Now, obviously, you don't really see a lot of Dragon-type coverage on Koridon these days. You see Close Combat or Collision Course as your fighting choice of move, and then you have Flare Blitz and Flame Charge and a Life Orb. So, like, you tend to see something like that. Like, I think Koridon could be a really good restricted partner right here. You could have, say, Incineroar, and then that way you have Intimidate and Fake Out support, and this way if Psychic Terrain doesn't go up, you do have Incineroar right there. You could have Iron Hands. Like, Iron Hands could be great since you do have Fake Out support as well. You could have, say, Amoonguss, and while I don't really think Hoopa-Unbound could be the greatest Trick Room mon, having that mode between Indeedee right here, having that Trick Room, and then having a fast Spore under Trick Room could be great, and outside of Trick Room, having that Rage Powder could be very, very nicely done for Amoonguss. You could have, say, Ursaluna. Regardless, you could have both forms. You could have either the standard Hisuian or the Blood Moon form, and then that way too, like, you have another strong partner. And then you could have, like, some screen support with Grimmsnarl. Like, you might be able to do something fun right here. Like, if you think about it, like, you could have either Hands or Incin. You could have so you could have either Hands or Incin, so as one slot. I got to make sure my hand is in frame. You can have your Amoonguss, your Ursaluna, your Grimmsnarl, your Koridon, plus your Hoopa, and that's looking pretty solid at the end of the day, regardless of how you're playing your Hoopa with that. So I think that could be really, really fun. And I'm honestly eager to try it out on Regulation J. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I have a team built. I just haven't had the time to sit down and film with it. But yeah. Let me know what you guys think of Hoopa-Unbound down in the comments below. Have you tried it? Have you made it work? And also, thank you to Nord once again for partnering with me for this video. And be sure to check out my link, nordvpn.com/shucko, to not only enhance your online security, but also support my channel growth. Anyways, thank you guys so much for making it to the end of the video if you have, and I will see you next time. Talk to you later.